Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. And you have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. And you've been so, so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. For the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me.
There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, no lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, no lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, no lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Overwhelming, reckless, incomprehensible love.
Amen.
God bless you. Thank you for
God bless
joining.
you too.
Take care.
Good evening. What's going on? How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome and thank you for joining on another broadcast. So yeah, what's going on? Hey everybody, how's it going? Guys, make sure you share out. We got some good word tonight, and make sure you're sharing out. Make sure you are y'all can hear me. If you can hear me, put a 1 in the chat stream, please. Make sure you can hear me. Pretty sure you can. What's going on, Faye? It's Gabby, right? Gabby! How you doing? I saw Sev in the house. I'm trying to pull up my other screen so I can see who's actually here. River of Life is in the house. Thanks so much for joining. Alright, who do we got? Now I can see. There's an Angel Love, Sev, River of Life, and looks like Sev again. So it's Faye. It's Gabby. How you guys doing? Sound is good. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining. We're going to go ahead and get our friends on live.me. Picture's good too? Alright, cool. Yeah, I kind of rearranged some couple things and kind of made things a little bit bigger, better, cleared up some stuff. Hopefully the broadcast will work well. You love being here? I love being here too. Doing good. Blessings. Thank you. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Alright, so let's see. Let me bring on live.me. Seeing as how they're still being not good with that thing, so we're gonna go ahead and just bring them in. We're gonna bring them in as, what is the title today? Oh my goodness. But a breath. That's what we're just gonna title it. Just but a breath. Hashtag. Oh, chat. Let's do that one. Hashtag chat. Sounds about right. We're chatting. We're chatting about Jesus. That's how that works. Oh yeah. Looks good too. Awesome. Thanks for joining, everybody, and thank you for all your shares, your comments, everything else like that. I gotta collect my gifts for the food of the week. What is it? Watermelon or something? I have no idea. Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining. And here we go. Let's get into this. So, I am Jason Wallace. I'm a believer and follower of Jesus Christ. I'm a prayer warrior, intercessor, a Bible reader. I'm a devoted husband and father. I am a child of God. I am a new creation in Christ. I am a citizen of heaven. I am a member of Christ's body. I am righteous and holy. Katie to who, what? I had no idea what you said. That's right, we love to chat about Jesus. Why not? He spent an awful lot of time chatting to us, so, and yeah, why not? I'm also a very proud member of the Jesus Did It family, and I was like, I'm still don't know that person's question, but hey, don't know. So, guys, you can check out the Jesus Did It website at www.jesusdidit.org. You guys can't see it. jesusdidit.org. Right there is your download with your I am statements. You definitely want to download that thing. print that thing out. It's free. It's free. It's all good. Way up there. Oh, did you like that? Way up there is the scripture thought of the day. There is the Jesus Did It official broadcasters. Make sure you're following each and every single one of those guys. And this group of broadcasters down here, these are the people that we like to watch, right? We like to spend some time in viewing. So definitely make sure you support all of our friends. Yeah, I changed it up a little bit. I made it a little bit so it's like, look. What's up, Firehawk? Thanks so much for joining. Just getting this other one all set up here and going. I don't know where I left off. I hate when it happens. I forget where I left off as I'm sharing out something. There we go. I think I'm good there. Okay, that's that. Thanks for coming back again. Thanks for being. You were laughing. That's good. That's good. If you want to, you can just right there. You can go on my link tree. How are you? I'm good. It's Joe Holdebro, something like that. Maybe I'm not saying it right. Joa. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Right there is the link tree that has all the links that you never want to get to get to me. Sorry, I'm really enjoying this this tea. It's really good. And if you want to join us on the Jesus Did It Facebook group, you can do it right there at Jesus Did It, or facebook.com/Jesus Did It TV. Make sure that you are following that for sure. Alright, so as we always do when we get started, we always start off with a song. And sometimes two, just depends. But we'll see what we got. For tonight, we start off with Reckless Love. So very interesting. What song should we play next? We just did Raise a Hallelujah. That one was just done. Lord, I Need You. So Will I. Is that To Love Somebody? That was a good tune. Good Father. Different. We haven't done that one in a while, have we? What's going on, Tina? Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting, guys. Thanks for all your shares, all of your invites and follows. What's up, Ty? What's going on, Ty's over on Facebookie? Yes, from F sharp to B was indeed a higher key. Yes, that was definitely sharp. Blessings and blessings, and thank you so much. Who's that? Frankie, thanks so much. Frankie? Is that what I'm saying? Frankie, welcome. Thank you for joining. Hello there, friend. How are you doing? We're getting ready to play a song. Stuck in Your Head for 3 days. What song was that? I Am Who You Say I Am. What song was stuck in your head? I Am Who You Say I Am. What song is that? I Am Who You Say I Am. Sorry, I'm having like brain farts right now. And I'm watching. Yeah. I'm either Ty on Facebook or Baseman on Periscope. Gotcha, brother. Awesome song. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Oh, you want to hear that one? I'm a child of God. Not forsaken, that's right. Should we do that one? Raise a Hallelujah? Which one do you guys think? Which one? What do you think? Yes, absolutely. Pick a song. I might have it. I'm actually contemplating. Those are the lyrics. Can't remember more lyrics. What was the word? Oh, last second. I gotta go back up. God, I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Child of God. Yes, I am. Stand by. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. It'll tell me what song that is. Who You Say I Am. That's how my brain's working today. Who You Say I Am. I know I did that one, and that was not that long ago. Who am I? Maybe it was that a while ago. Who You Say I Am. Where'd it go? Come on, it wasn't that long ago. Was it really that long ago? Alright, let's go. Let's go! Who You Say I Am. Yeah, I gotta find it now. Lauren Daigle. Is that who sings it? Alright, let's do a Control F. And we're gonna find Who You Say I Am. Oh yeah, I did this one with Teresa. She's an awesome singer. Awesome singer. Here we go. Here we go. She's great. That picture's a little off, but she's a great singer. It'll come on in a second. There we go.
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, who is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am.
Free at last he has ransomed me, his grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, who is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am.
I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am.
I am who you say I am.
Who the Son sets free,
Oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am.
in my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am.
I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am.
yes, I am
Who you say I am.
who the sun sets free. Oh, it's free indeed. And I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
Well, that's okay, just for fun. Opinions, you know how that goes. I don't need to say any more. Because I am a child of God. And that is what it is, right? So it doesn't matter how many thumbs downs you give to me. It does not matter. It does not matter. That song was not for you. That song was for my God. And that's it. That's right. I don't need to be mean. Y'all like it? There's a little X up in the corner. Right up in there. You just press it. Press the little X. And you can go bye-bye. That's okay. Listen, there's nobody gonna be able to troll me. You can't not troll me. It just won't matter. That's right. That's right. He loves the voices of his children. Why wouldn't he? We're sitting there praising him, thanking him for how great he is. Would you not? Would you not? Would you not like somebody sitting there singing a song to you? Yeah. Yeah. Listen, it seems like a worship night tonight. Let's do this. Let's do this. It's a worship night tonight. There's going to be a couple more extra songs than normal, guys. Just because I'm feeling it. And I hope I get some more thumbs down. That's good. I like it. Let's see. Someone had made a recommendation a little bit higher up, so I gotta go find it. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, somebody wants to hear Chain Breaker? Chain Breaker? I got that. I know I got that. It's just a question of finding it. Control F. Chain Breaker. Alright, where'd it go? Hold on. Where is it? Oh, that's in somebody else's. Hold on. Let me dig in a little bit more. At least it wasn't the middle finger. That's right. Otherwise, those of you who have the right, you know what to do. Middle fingers and swearing are not allowed. Sorry. Don't care for them. Oh, that was a good one too. Man, I'm digging up all the old songs. Zach Williams. Yep. I just gotta go dig it. I gotta go dig it out. Chain Breaker. There it is. Oh, that was SGE Official. That one's gonna be All of Us. There's only one? I thought I did that. I thought I did that whole song. Alright, let me go. There's a lot of songs, guys. And if it's from over 2 years ago, it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good. I'm gonna warn you for the sake of your ears that it's not gonna be very, very good. Let's see. Oh, Break Every Chain. That's a good song too. Let's do that one. Let's do that one. Let's do that one and we'll come back to your guys' suggestions. Definitely. Sorry, I hit this one, we gotta do it. Let's do this song. It might take it a minute to download because it's been a while. Okay, some Tasha Cobbs. We'll get the All's Well with the Soul and 10,000 Reasons in a minute.
There's power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus. You break every chain. Break every chain, break every chain. Break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. There is power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus to break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. To break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. There's an army rising up. There's an army rising up. There's an army rising up to break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. To break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. There's an army rising up. There's an army rising up.
You're not thinking the wrong key. I think I'm pretty much off key on this song. This was quite a while ago.
Rising up to break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. To break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. I hear the chains falling.
Yeah, we'll definitely pray for you. Back is something that I experience pain in quite a bit, and I can tell you right now, it sucks. I'm not gonna lie, back pain sucks. Hopefully my daughter will be coming home soon. But yeah, back pain is no joke. It stinks bad. But here's what we can do. Listen. Just, I'm sitting on one right now. The chair that I have has like a back massager thingy on it with some heat. And then I have a little bit of cream stuff that I put on the back. And it helps a lot. I'll send you a messenger. This stuff. Cancel any assignment enemy right now. There you go. You can definitely do that. But we're gonna just what we're gonna do is we're gonna pray for a miracle in her back. We're gonna pray. All right, let's do that. Lord Heavenly Father, we ask for a miracle for healing in her back. Lord, we know that that pain and suffering on this earth is something that happens, Lord. But we just ask for healing and to be brought into her back, Lord, and allow her to be able to sleep well and be able to walk upright and sit for the proper amount of time that she needs to be able to do all of those functions. So Lord, we just ask this in your mighty and powerful Son's name we pray. Amen and amen. That's right. We will stomp that devil's head. There you go. I can do that. Alright, what song's next? Who wants a song? What was the song? I heard something about 10,000 Reasons. I saw that one. That one was with my man, Mr. Styles. So, I guess we're going to pick one more song. Because then my youngest daughter will be home soon, and I'm probably going to have to cut no 10-hour scopes like other people do. Just jokes. Oh, yeah. Just jokes. Yeah, this is what my man Mr. Styles, 10,000 Reasons. There it is. Don't be messing up, computer.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing Your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. You're rich in love and You're slow to anger. Your name is great and Your heart is kind. For all Your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my worship your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. I sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. I'll worship your holy name. I'll worship your holy name.
God bless you, brother. All right. Let's get into what we came here to do. And as Pastor Rick says, this is the point where people leave. Joking. There we go. Alright, here it is. We are reading Psalm 88. I cannot believe that we're made it all the way to Psalm 88. Psalm 88, it's, wow. If I were to look at it from a view in the Bible, like in the actual book, alright, Psalm 88. There was somewhere here, I don't remember what it was. It was like, it was some weird fact, right? But Psalm 88 is one of these Psalms that's actually the very middle of the Bible. I don't remember which one it is. I don't claim to know it all, but I remember seeing something. So, look at, we're nearly, I'm pretty sure we're about halfway through. If we look at it, it's about halfway through. Crazy. We're halfway through the Bible on Periscope. The rest of the streams, you guys been with me as we added John, and I thank you so much. So let's read the Psalm 88. We read from the New King James Version. Why? Because that's the one I read. I normally read the Amplified version. But they don't have it here on this app, on this website. And I really like this website, and there's a reason for it. Because I don't know everything about the Bible. There's a lot of smart people that have written a lot of smart things about the Bible on this website. So it really helps. It really helps. Like, when I don't know a word, right? How do you say this? I don't even know how to say that. Ma something. Right? Don't know how to read it. This is a psalm of this guy. I don't know how to say that. That's in like Hebrew. Wait.
Strong's 84257. Machaleth.
That.
Machaleth.
Machaleth. There you go. Or this word.
Strong's H 5329. Natsach.
Naksak. Or that word.
Strong's H 7141. Korach.
Korah. Yeah. I would never known. Honestly. So, here we go. And I'm probably not going to say them right, but that's okay. A song. This is Psalm 88, by the way. In case I didn't say that already, probably about 3 times. Psalm 88. A song. A psalm of the sons of Korah. To the chief musician, set to Mahalat something, yeah, that thing. A contemplation of Herman the Ezrahite. O Lord, God of my salvation, I have cried out day and night before you. Let my prayer come before you. Incline your ear to hear my cry. For my soul is full of troubles. All of my life draws near to the grave. I am counted with those who go down to the pit. I am counted with those who go down to the pit. I am like a man who has no strength, adrift among the dead, like the slain who lie in the grave, whom you remember no more, and who are cut off from your hand. You have laid me in the lowest pit, in darkness, in the depths. Your wrath lies heavy upon me, and you have afflicted me with all of your waves. You have put away my acquaintance from far from me. You have made me an abomination to them. I am shut up, and I cannot get out. My eye wastes away. My eye wastes away because of affliction. Lord, I have called daily upon you. I have stretched out my hands to you. Will you work wonders for the dead? Shall the dead arise and praise you? Shall the loving kindness be declared in the grave, or your faithfulness in the place of destruction? This is pretty gloomy, this one. This one's pretty gloomy. Pretty gloomy. Wow. Shall your wonders be known in the dark, and your righteousness in the land of forgetfulness? But to you I have cried out, O Lord, and in the morning my prayer comes before you. Lord, why do you cast off my soul? Why do you hide your face from me? I have been afflicted and ready to die from my youth. I suffer your terrors. I am distraught. Your fierce wrath has gone over me. Your terrors have cut me off. They come around me all day long like water. They engulfed me altogether. Loved one and friend, you have put far from me, and my acquaintances into darkness. That's a big difference from the other day when we read there, right? Why do you choose another for your own action? What? Why do you choose another for your own actions? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Video. What are you talking about? Okay, block me. Whatever. Got some interesting people on here tonight. What was that say? Why do you choose another for your own actions? I have no idea what that person's question was. Anyway, yeah, thanks for joining. Candy121212, thanks for joining. Thanks for being here, guys. Yeah, I don't know, so weird. Oh, right from the left. And then they're like, blocked. Okay. No skin off my back. We're okay. I'm good. Anyway, yeah, that was very interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, so our devotional, let's see. That's really big. Let's cut that thing down. That was really big. Hold on. I was like readjusting things to make it look a little bit better, and apparently I made some of these things, some of like the chat stuff, way big. There we go. What did you miss? I don't know. It was some person who said, why do you choose another for your own actions? And then said video, and then said blocked. You didn't miss much. It's okay. We read Psalm 88. Failing, I think. Nah, you're not failing. Don't fail. Nope, you're not. You're a child of God. You're a new creation in Christ. You're a citizen of heaven. Exactly, squirrel. I think he might be back over in that tree over there, right there. See that one? It might be right there, that squirrel. Anyways, guys, every time we read, come on here and broadcast, and we read also our devotional. which is the Our Daily Bread. Our Daily Bread is a free publication. You might be able to get it at your church. If not, search around town. If not, go to odb.org and you can get your own copy. Or if you're in the Buffalo area, reach out to me and I'll meet up with you and I'll give you a copy, because I am a Our Daily Bread ambassador, which means I always have copies of this on me. So if you need a copy, let me know. If not, there it is. All right, so today's word for Thursday, July 25th. That's today, right? That is today. Beautiful. The title is But a Breath. This is written by Alison Kieda. Bobby's sudden death brought home to me a stark reality of death and brevity of life. My childhood friend was only 24 when a tragic accident on an icy road claimed her life. Growing up in a dysfunctional family, she had recently seemed to be moving forward. Just a new believer in Jesus. How could her life end so soon? Sometimes life seems far too short and full of sorrow. In Psalm 39, the psalmist David bemoans his own suffering and exclaims, "Show me, Lord, my life's end, and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is. You have made my days a mere handbreadth. The span of my years is nothing before you. Everyone is but a breath, even those who seem secure. Life is short. Even if we live to see a century, our earthly life is but a drop in all of time." And yet, David, we can say, and yet with David, we can say, my hope is in the Lord. Right? Hope is in the Lord. We can trust that our lives do have meaning. Though our bodies may waste away, as believers, we have confidence that inwardly we are being renewed day by day. And one day, we'll enjoy life eternal with Him. We know this because God has given us the Spirit, guaranteeing what is to come. Amen. Some scripture references inside of there, guys, just to let you know, so that way you don't seem like this guy's just spouting stuff off. Alright. Psalm 39, verses 4 and 5. 2 Corinthians 4, 16 through 5 through 1. Through 5 and 1, sorry. And verse 5 out of 2 Corinthians, verse 5. Alright, so today's reading was from Psalm chapter 39, verses 1 through 13. And the key verse for today is Psalm 39, verse 7. My hope is in you. Yes, it is. Hope is in you, Lord. Question for today. Ready? This one's going to stick you pretty good. How is it comforting to know that God has made it possible for you to share in His eternal life? Whew. How can the gift of each moment encourage you to make the most of your time? Alright, let's pray. Thank you, Lord, that this life is not all there is. You have eternity in store for all who believe in you. Help us to spend our numbered days here in service to you. Amen. Amen. Kim, the fun one's in the house. How you doing? Haven't seen you in for a long time. How are you doing? How is everybody doing? I don't know. The chat thing's not working, or no one's chatting. It's probably what it is. What's up, M Love CB M Heart CB something? Nothing. Everybody's conflicted. That's okay. Convicted, conflicted, convicted, something like that. I don't know. The chat thing's not broken. Anyway, there it is. Boom. Okay. I'm glad the chat thing's working still. Alright, guys. If you have any prayer requests, praise reports, anything like that, please throw them in the chat stream. We would love to pray for you. Lift up, all of your prayers to God. We'll help you do that. Alright, some really good tea. I love this stuff. Organic India. Yeah, Organic India lemon ginger. Oh, so good. Yeah, it's working. I cannot believe the amount of viewers on Periscope. 1,222 already. That is crazy. Well, I think my daughter's home. Praying your son lands a job. Lord, we lift up Jaden tonight, Lord. We just ask for favor for him in Jesus' name for a job, Lord, a way to provide for himself, to be able to help take some burdens off of Kim and her husband, and allow the young man to be able to understand how to take care of money and how to grow and just trust in with you, Lord, with trusting in you that you will provide. And Lord, we just ask for that provision in Jesus' mighty and powerful name. We pray. Amen. Amen. All right, yep. Go head out. Go get some TV. Yeah, get a little TV. Get some sleep. Hey, Melissa, thanks so much for joining. Hey, Renee, thanks so much for joining. I got my wife saying yo to me. Okay. Not home yet. I don't think she is. I should probably go check. So, hey, we're back. Live.me. Sorry about that. I had to take care of that. Hey, how's it going? J.R. Wallace is in the house. I think it's time to do a J.R. Wallace song. I'm just saying. Mr. Wallace, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you, Messenger 2019? God bless you too. Let's do a J.R. Wallace and Jason R. Wallace. How about that for Trippy? They get us mixed up all the time on the line app. They're always tagging the wrong JR. I wish we. Okay, 1 second, guys. Just take care of solution. You'll make it. All right. There we go. Live.me's back. Let's do a J.R. Wallace song. I think so. I think that's what we ought to do. J.R. Wallace is in the house. Oh, he went away. No. Excuse me. No, he went away. Alright. How's it going? How's it going, guys? Do we have any more prayer requests or praise reports? Did I miss one? Jaden, touching agreement, gonna head out, praying for a job. Here it is. Alright, I'm gonna put a song on and I'm gonna go check to see if my child is home. Alright, thank you, amen. Sure, no problem. That's what we do. That is what we do. And bless you too. Let's go over to a singing video side. Let's check this out, and just want you to know that I include you in my prayers. Thank you. I do appreciate that, because Lord knows I need that for sure. I do thank you for that. I actually had someone before, I told them I was going to pray for them, and they got mad at me. Got mad at me, blocked me, still won't talk to me. It's still very interesting. Love what you're doing here. Just goes you and Pastor Rick are part of my reason for doing your scopes. Hey, that is what it's about. This is what it's about. We need more people on here speaking the truth about Jesus Christ. There's a lot of people tickling ears, speaking a whole bunch of stuff about God and about the Bible that is not the truth, and we would much rather have people who are spreading the truth in reality and not just here to make money off of people, you know. That's right. Is we just don't want to. We don't want it to be something that is you know, fake and forced and pushed. You know, I'm so blessed that you did too. I enjoy your broadcast. This thing won't find this. It won't find my group. Anyway, I guess I'll just wait on that thing and I'll get the song going. I'll go check to see if my child is downstairs. I mean, I could yell abruptly, but that's not really the best way. Alright, just for you. That's demons inside. Making them run for the Holy Spirit. There you go. Yeah, it's very important that everybody comes on a broadcast. Make sure you're following Angel Love as well. She broadcasts too. Good stuff. Here we go. Raise a hallelujah. Someone asked for it. It's going to be chiming in your ears for a little while now. I will be back in a few moments. I just got to go check to make sure my child is home or not. So here it is.
I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I raise a hallelujah. Heaven comes to fight for me.
I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm, louder and louder. You're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive.
I raise a hallelujah with everything inside of me. I raise a hallelujah. I will watch the darkness flee. I raise a hallelujah in the middle of the mystery. I raise a hallelujah. Fear you lost your hold on me.
I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm, louder and louder. You're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive.
Sing a little louder.
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 In the presence of my enemies,
Sing a little louder.
louder than the unbelief.
Sing a little louder.
My weapon is a melody.
Thanks for worshiping with me.
You got it. Thanks.
Bye.
God bless you. That is an amazing song, right? And sometimes you don't even understand the words that are on the song until like you listen to it. Someone else singing it, right? And you're like, whoa, those words really do mean something different than I thought they did, right? You know, fear, you lose your hold. You know, you lost your hold on me. That's definitely it. Guys, if you have anything else that you want to reach out to me with, definitely send me an email, jason@jesusdidit.org. And hey, if you need any help with your church or your business or your own personal live streaming efforts going, and do you need coaching, do you need help with how to do this, I can definitely help. And send me an email. We'll talk about what you already have. We'll kind of view and see what you got going on. Talk about budgets, stuff like that. And if there's any money that's made from that type of stuff, it is put back into this ministry because Lord knows I need a new computer. No problem. That's a great song. So if you definitely contact me and share out, and definitely thank you for the shares, guys. Also this Saturday, love the Holy Spirit shows me more things. The time to hear and read. Exactly. This Saturday, you don't want to miss it. You want to make sure you're following the Jesus Did It accounts. Jesus Did It accounts. Jesus Did It TV accounts on Periscope and Facebook, because we're going to be broadcasting. I should say I might be on. I don't know. I'm supposed to be at a party that time, a birthday party for a family member. So I may or may not be on the broadcast, depending on what is going on and whether we're home or not or whatever. I don't know. But it's at 6:30 on Saturday, and you definitely don't want to miss it. It's going to be really, really cool. Yeah, I need a computer, period. Yeah, exactly. This computer is like as old as my daughter. My oldest daughter. 11 years old. It's crazy. Have to find ways to earn money for Bibles as well. Listen, if God wants to make a way for it, He will help you make a way for it. And, definitely. So, guys, remember, then this is a Bible study on fellowship, right? On fellowship. And you definitely don't want to miss it. A Bible study meaning on Zoom. So you guys, Pastor Rick said that you're going to email him or message him or let him know on tomorrow that you want to join the broadcast, and then that way he'll send an email to you guys just before or right around the time that the broadcast starts on Saturday with the link for the Zoom meeting. You don't have anything fancy. All you gotta do is have the Zoom app installed on your phone. You don't even have to make an account for it. All you gotta do is just wait for the email, click the link, it'll open up the Zoom app and connect you. And it'll ask you, do you want to use the microphone and camera, and it will then ask you to what you want in your name to be, and you just type in your name. That's it, and you say connect, and then you're on. And so you'll be on the call with everybody here out of your laptop. You don't know how to get into it at all. Oh, I hate when that happens. There's some pretty smart computer dudes that would probably be able to willing and help you. Maybe ask the computer guy at church. He might help you. I get questions a lot at church, but it's definitely good. Okay, this is specifically for Peaks and Peaks only. Peaks, you are not to use any other method, Peaks, at all. Peaks, are you listening to me, Peaks? Peaks, you are to not use any other method. If you want to support this ministry, if you'd like to choose to donate, make sure you use the in-app payment method, Peaks. I have to really expressly say this. You know why? Because they shut down my broadcast. they delete it if they see any other type of payment thing. So I'm telling you guys, if you guys are on Peaks, use the in-app method of payment. Thank you. All right. For the rest of you that would like to, if you feel that feel led to support this ministry, and you don't have to. Trust me, you do not have to. God will provide. All right, God will provide, and whatever it is, but if you wish to, there is the payment methods. Peaks, make sure you use the in-app payment method. Rest of you guys, there's Cash App and Venmo and PayPal if you're interested. I'm not asking for anything, but if you feel led, that's how you do it. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, so with that, let's go ahead and just let's go ahead and pray over this whole broadcast and pray for everybody that's on here. And let me start shutting it down. Okay, Liz, thanks so much for joining on Facebook. Alright, let me get rid of my face out of that thing. Okay. Alright, so let's pray. Lord Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this time and this broadcast, Lord. We appreciate every single person that comes on here, Lord, and we ask for blessings upon their life. Lord, we just thank you for the opportunity to be able to pray for people, for the opportunity to be able to spread and your word about you and the gospel and everything that is about you and all of your words. Lord, we thank you for the truth that is in Jesus Christ, and we thank you so much for the salvation that we have simply by believing and having that grace, just accepting that grace, that you are almighty and great Father. Lord, thank you so much, God, and in Jesus' mighty and powerful name we pray. Amen and amen. All right, guys, we're heading on out. If you guys, thank you so much for joining, and thanks for all the hearts, the shares. Catch a replay for me, please. And it's really cool to get 1,300 viewers, and thank you to all 1,300 viewers. Thank you, but I really need some help with some replays. So if we can do some replays, that means that all of those lovely super hearts that people keep giving me will actually be able to be cashed in, and then I can take that money and put it to the new computer. So it kind of works out that way. So Desert Liz is in the house. She came over. I haven't seen you in about a minute. How are you doing? I hope everything is well with you. I bet it was a great school year, right? And you're probably just getting ready to start up a new school year, right? So she's a teacher at a school, and great person. So guys, thanks so much for joining. I do appreciate you guys being here, and my daughter is patiently waiting so she can have some food. So guys, take it easy, have a very nice night, get some rest, and be blessed, and know that Jesus Christ loves you. No problem. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Cannot wait to catch all of you rest of you guys broadcasting. Come on now. I want to hear some broadcasting. I want to hear some of you guys. I want to see some of you guys broadcast. I want to see you guys. Thank you so much for all your hearts, super hearts, invites, and follows and shares. You guys are awesome, and I do appreciate that. God bless you all, and we will see you next time. I love y'all. Let's pick a song and get on out of here. Alright, Abby, what song should we do? You don't know? Let's pick a song. Let's pick a song. I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Let's do that one. I love that song. Here we go. You say good night. I love you guys, and we will see you on the next broadcast.
Sierra Gospel Experience, SGE.
All right.
Thank you for
Good night.
listening.
I
keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough.
Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up.
Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low?
Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Oh,
You say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak.
you say I am held when I am falling short, when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe.
The only thing that matters now is everything you think of me.
In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Oh,
You say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak.
You say I am held when I am falling short, when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe.
Taking all I have and now I'm laying me at your feet.
You have every failure, God. You have every victory. Oh.